Welcome one and all to the first semi-final here today in Montreal online. We've been through it, going through those quarter-final matches. Some great stuff and some not so great stuff all along the way, but very entertaining nonetheless to be watching. And now it is getting serious, Sottle. We're only a couple of matches crowning our champion, and now we're going to find out who of our competitors is going to be waiting in the finals. Is it going to be Frenetic representing Spain? Huge amount of support for him from back home, or is it going to be Lambyseries? In my opinion, the player that I have been most impressed by all of the in the debate so far.
Yeah, almost by process of elimination, it has to be said, but
Almost.
you are not wrong. Lambyseries does certainly seem to be playing the most solid Hearthstone that we have up until this point. But this is Frenetic's lineup, as we saw. He was in our opening series. He has that Highlander Priest, does have the Soul Demon Hunter as well as his Bomb Warrior, which means that actually his Mage has received the ban in this series, which we saw in the climactic battle in his quarterfinal matchup against Nightning, where it was the Tempo Mage Mirror. We're not going to be able to see any of that evocation shenanigans this time around.
Yeah, very much in keeping with Lambyseries strategy. As I've said multiple times now, I think it's a really clever take on the lineup. He's taken standard classes, standard archetype, and switched things around to have a slant towards targeting a warrior. We saw it against Lion when he played the Stick Finger to steal her huge Wrench Caliber that got all three charges stolen. And I think that's been a big part of his success so far. So definitely looking to try and get a couple of wins against the warrior before that can sneak through. And one way that he has gained an advantage against warrior is pretty undeniably with the weapon road.
Yes, and it is a pretty good deck for doing so. It does have that nice early curve of stealth minions that is very inefficient for warrior and various other decks for dealing with, but it is the self-sharpening sword itself when it comes up against a deck that does not represent any way to destroy it, no weapon destruction in there, that it can just single-handedly carry a game on its shoulders.
Indeed. I've liked the way that Lambyseries has been going about Rogue as well. You don't want to play it too much for aggro tempo in the early turn, or too much as a weapon deck. You want to find that middle ground. But it does feel like he's got himself a pretty decent matchup here, because Frenetic here, you'd have to imagine, was going in with the idea of banning Bomb Warrior, which is why he hasn't got any weapon destruction here. But for Frenetic, it really is not going to work out well, because good golly, do you want weapon destruction in this matchup?
Yeah, you absolutely do. There is, of course, the Zephyrus, through which all things are possible, but it's going to have to do a lot of heavy lifting. It's going to be able to stave off the onslaught here that the Weapon Rogue can throw out against it, although we have seen some particular matchups, I believe, in GM. I think it was in APAC, actually, with yourself and Gia casting, where we've seen Rogues getting absolutely tortured by Highlander Priests, but those were variations that were running the multiple weapon destructions to be able to deal with the first self-sharpening sword, then the second, then the hooked scimitar if it's to come down as well, and the deadly poison with the raised dead on one of your weapon destruction minions as well. So with just that Zephyrus to rely on, it's probably going to be a different story in this matchup.
It will be, but of course, it's worth broadening our vision a little bit here. While those are key cards that help to tech the matchup in your favor for the Priest, you still have a very strong game plan here. It's a rogue deck that is significantly less reactive, I think, than a lot of the other archetypes knocking around, which is definitely exploitable in my opinion.
One keep Worgen Infiltrator here. Always want to be holding on to at least one stealth minion if they're offered, so that you do have that activator for the Greyheart Sage and other stealth synergy cards. And now we are already in business, Derek.
Off to the races, a premium starting hand here. Really just needs a little bit of card draw, which, like you said, Greyheart Sage is a great source of. Secret Passage would be huge as well. And I mean, even if he misses that, this is just curving out. He's just winning.
Card draw? What card draw?
Yeah,
this
true.
hand just counts to 30.
Not bad at all, though. On the other side, we've, I think, seen a lot of instances where Valfiend would be pretty powerful, not only in the Highlander Priest archetypes, but also just the straight-up Galakron versions with two ofs in the deck. I definitely think it's an underrepresented card at the moment, and is going to pay off pretty big here for Frenetic, who gets off to a powerful board control start.
Yeah, I do agree to some extent. There's a philosophy that came from A-Bar in our chat at some point where, a lot of these anti-aggro lists choose to run double Wild Pyromancer. And he posed the question of what happens if you just play double Imprisoned Vilefiend in that spot instead to allow you to fight for tempo early. And never mind, this entire game just changed, Eric.
Oh my goodness. There we go. We were talking about no oozes in the deck. Well, let's just wish for one. Your wish is my suggestion. And this time he suggests the right one.
Well, now what? Because this doesn't even look like a race you're winning now, even with the massive amounts of damage that can still come out with the Hook Scimitar. But it's just been extra board presence as well being generated from Frenetic. The fact that his curve went Vilefiend into Kaj, into Zephyrus Ooze. I think there's a term for that. It's on the tip of my tongue. Oh, the nuts! That's what he drew this game. Yeah, I've got it.
Those are indeed the nuts. Not necessarily the easiest choice there as to which one you make the illusion version, because while this is obviously a higher health total, it isn't clearing the board at all, whereas the 5/5 does a little bit of a better job.
There's also the idea of protecting yourself against potentially a Cabal steal on the 1/8 itself, right? Where you put the illusion on it, so even if it gets stolen, it ends up as a protected minion. But I think, quite honestly, in Lambyseries position, playing around Cabal Acolyte stealing one of your minions here is not something you should even dream of doing, because you are not beating that curve as a follow-up to what you've seen already.
That's true. I do agree with that. I still just... It's the fact that he doesn't have any ways to mop up these 1-health guys, unless he wants to go with Dagger here and start swinging in, but I really don't want to play your hero power here. These cards need to get spent as soon as possible, because who knows, maybe you'll find a way to dig yourself out, like Puzzle Box.
Don't want to play anymore, Derek.
Well, sorry, Soul. It's another 15 minutes before Mum gets off work, so you have to stay and play, alright? I'm sorry.
Okay. Can he even live that long, though? That's the pertinent question, because there's a pretty serious beatdown coming back the other way right now.
That's the game plan. How he achieves that is obviously pretty difficult. As I said, a much less reactive deck than the Secret Rogues that we're seeing a lot more of in Grandmasters, at least. Sap is available, Eviscerate. Obviously, the weapons themselves can be used to trade at the expense of health. I'm kind of thinking it's just not a secret passage turn here. You just go for the Hooked Scimitar and start swinging into minions.
Ha! Imagine. What? Imagine hitting a minion.
Oh my god. Okay. Fair enough.
So Lambyseries deck does not play Sinister Strikes. It's not the completely outright aggressive version of the deck.
Yeah.
But he does, of course, have double Eviscerate in there. He is secret passaging into potentially more damage on the following turn. So you're so far behind that you're out here as secret passage into like deadly Abyss or something ridiculous like that. Like, I don't know. Seems about as reasonable as any other win condition I can come up with right here, Derek.
It's gonna have to get even more impressive than that. The Radiance plus a Taunt. I don't care if this is a 2-4, a 2-6, or a 2-20. It's winning the game at the moment for Frenetic. What do you even point that at?
You point it somewhere in the direction of the bottom right of your screen.
Passage into second One Thief. Correction, there's only one in the deck. Into Sap, and then you get to attack face, and then you're just still dead on board. It's not coming together.
If there's anything we've learned today, Derek, it's that being dead on board is just a state of mind.
I'm not dead on board. You are! Oh no, wait. I am actually dead on board. And Frenetic takes a win there right at the start. You can almost feel the pressure that he is feeling right now, tweeting out earlier this morning that this is, in his opinion, one of the most important days of his life, in or outside of Hearthstone. He wants to lift Spain up, I believe was the literal translation that was offered to me. I assume meaning do his fellow countrymen proud. And they are at the moment rallying behind him. I'm seeing a bunch of profile pictures being changed to Frenetic in the Spanish scene.
Okay, cool.
All rallying together as he's their champion right now. It's been a while since Spain has had a really good run through a Hearthstone tournament. And Frenetic so far, I've definitely been impressed with what I've seen from him more than a lot of the other field.
And I love the Spanish community in terms of the way that they support their own, because one of my favorite memories in Hearthstone casting is at DreamHack Valencia, I believe it was, when Harry Seldon won the tournament as like a hometown boy and walked out of the player room to just a mob, like a mob at the airport welcoming home World Cup winners level of ovation just outside in the player area as he walked his way out there. It was absolutely incredible to see him being celebrated as a hometown hero, as a Spanish winner. So incredible stuff, and I wouldn't be surprised at all to see that same level of support going on for Frenetic right now, because they definitely do take care of their own in the Spanish Hearthstone community.
They really do, but he hasn't got it done yet. 1-0 up, looking in a good spot, but as I was saying, the Bomb Warrior that he is queuing up now, as is so often the case in Conquest format Hearthstone, there's one deck that lets you down, that you just can't get over the finish line. The Bomb Warrior has definitely been what Lambyseries so far has been trying to target with that. And so now Frenetic lining it up against the Druid. He's going to have to hope to get a win here, but Lambyseries with his kind of signature tech of King Feoris definitely has a lot of punch to fight back right at the start.
Yeah, and I've talked a lot about Wicked Good stat reporting on the different archetypes so far, and it does seem like the King Feoris version overall has underperformed, although we see Lambyseries here with it in the top 8. It generally does seem to reduce your win rate overall, at least in this one-off field that we have here in Masters Tour Montreal, to be running the King Feoris version. So it does seem like Lambyseries is the exception rather than the rule here in terms of this unique build of the deck, which in fairness, did show a lot of promise in various Open Cup wins before it got to this point.
And we just saw a very reminiscent and interesting mulligan decision there from Frenetic, where he had double Corsair Cash in the starting hand, which Lion had at the start of the day. But when she kept that, it was to try and find Anchor, which she missed. If Frenetic was to keep double Corsair Cash, it would be to guarantee him one of the Wrench Calibers. Do you like just tossing one away with having the potential risk of not finding one?
I do. So I actually had this conversation with TJ just before or just after we recorded Hot Takes one week, where we were talking about some of his casting from the Americas region, where he was critical of keeping Wrench Caliber against Druid, which made no sense to me. And I kind of had that verified from some other strong players as well, that the keep was fine in that situation. But if you actually really dig into and break down a lot of the stats, which we did, it certainly does indicate that you can't over-rely on just pure weapon damage in this matchup. You have to also secure removal. So, one keep Wrench Caliber with no other removal, maybe we can talk about that, but also multiple keeps of keeping, Corsair Cash. Well, at that point, where's the room for the Blade Storm or the Shield Block, Shield Slam, or the Brawl, or anything else at that point to come into your hand? So, generally, I think the best mulligan in the matchup is a good mix of Wrench Caliber plus powerful removal tools, as you're seeing being used incredibly effectively right now from Frenetic.
Oh yeah, it's a super clutch Green Needle. I mean, Blade Storm coming through here from Frenetic to lock down this board, deny the card draw. If there wasn't the Guardian Animals in hand, he'd be looking in a fantastic spot. But unfortunately for him, Lambyseries has hit the dream.
This isn't bad, though. A lot of card draw here. No upgrade effect found just yet, but he does still have Shield Block, Shield Slam for some guaranteed removal on the following turn, so he will have good opportunities to be able to push some damage through.
It's going to be close, isn't it? This Blastmaster Boom as well is looking clutch. Not for the win necessarily, but just to wrestle back that board.
Yes. Might just need one or two upgrade effects to land on this Wrench Caliber first, so he can get maximum value out of the Blastmaster. But especially now, that's a lot of value being removed from that potential Blastmaster Boom right now.
Yeah, not often you say it, but very happy to see that bomb being drawn there. Lambyseries list is running 2 Lake Threshers as well, so that will get 1 minion from the deck. Arguably worth it to go for the Guardian Animals just to get down a Nubasath Defender as well. It's definitely more pressure on this turn, and it does thin a card from your deck that you definitely don't want to draw.
It is true. The question is it then too much pressure at that point into a skip a Barov or into a Brawl? Like, is this... this looks like a pretty comfy middle ground, right, in terms of trying to force out big removal spells from your opponent. I think this is probably fine. Nice. That's premium.
Yep, one of the better beasts added in with Scholomance Academy. A 4/4 on the Death Rattle makes this mighty difficult for Frenetic to effectively clear up because, I mean, even ignoring the potential for the win condition for Lambyseries with like the Feoris, Ysera survival, he's just winning with what's on board at the moment. He's getting there really fast. Game plan's coming together. I like it.
It is, and this is good timing now, right? Because he has Brawl protection, he has Barov protection. It is only in the form of a 1/1, which there are ways to deal with, but like if the play is just hardcast Brawl here for Frenetic, it's likely there's 7 or 8 damage left in play at the end of the turn, opponent at 13. This looks like a very nice opportunity to just push in.
Can even draw next turn with Overgrowth. He's at least got one more turn of decent pressure with Overgrowth Teacher's Pet if nothing better provides itself. It is the 1/1 that survives, though, which is definitely not what you want to see as Lambyseries. He wants this game over as soon as possible, and with another dead draw, quite a few turns in a row, the opportunity is presenting itself for Frenetic here. But not for long.
Not for long indeed, but there is a counter-offensive potential now, but the double Death Rattle minion is so awkward against the Deathwing turn. It's worked out pretty nicely for Lamby. Obviously, it's worked out horribly that he only has 1 damage in play this turn. He ideally would love a lot more than that, but yes, it does seem like it has to be a counter-offensive turn, and the counter-offensive is not that impressive with just the 2 bombs going in here.
Oh, how far we've come. Dr. Boom for 4 Boom bots. Not that impressive.
Just isn't.
It's just not very good anymore.
No. Trade the 1/1 Broom potential then to rush the 4/4 afterwards if he so requires. And I think he does so require.
Yeah, you may as well. This board's likely getting swept up anyway in one way or another.
4 face, Broom trades. Alright, it's probably a pretty good outcome in the grand scheme of things for Frenetic.
Well, at long last, these swings can finally start actually come in face at this point, with the weapons and the minions, starting to be cleared up. In the next couple of turns, an upgrade here, clearing off the board. Starting to get a bit more palatable for Frenetic.
That is a ton of damage now going through, and that full board clear.
You've got me fired up.
And there is Living Dragon Breath, the stuff of nightmares.
That's a Spider Tank. What are you talking about?
It is Spider Tank. Sorry.
I don't see a Living Breath.
Cooking.
Yeah, you're right. Wow.
Oi, oi, oi.
Suddenly there's a corner being turned here, potentially, for Frenetic. He finds himself at 6, but Lambyseries running so low on value here.
I mean, it's
Deathwing
a decent
counter-offensive now?
Yeah, like it's a decent Broomstick he's getting here, but you really don't want to play Broomstick here unless you have to. That's the card that you play after your dragons have come down to lock out the game. And with both of them having been played now, Lambyseries gets very linear in his deck. He doesn't have the reactivity that you rely on a lot of the time in the late game.
Yeah, just take a second. You are right, that is the play, but just take a second.
Yeah. Barov, Hero Power, Shield Slam your own Barov socket gets a lot less damage in play.
I like the line that puts the 12 attack minion on the board. Your opponent just showed that they couldn't really deal with your 4-2, right? Without doing something pretty panicky with the broom on the previous turn, so I'm a big fan of this.
Even goes for the Battle Rage. That's a tough man's Battle Rage right there.
Heck yeah.
Oh! Ooh. That's just not
dead.
enough.
He's just dead.
Subtle, this is so big. This is what Lambyseries has been preying on all the way through to the semi-finals, and Frenetic, against all the odds, gets the win with the Warrior. The chances of going through to the finals of a Masters Tour all of a sudden is very real.
Yeah, his chances of winning the series just skyrocketed through the roof. I talk about this all the time, but not all wins in Conquest are created equal. Some matters so much more than others, and in this case it was the Warrior win on the side of Frenetic that was the most important for him to pick up, and he did it at the first port of call. He now has such a buffer with his Soul Demon Hunter to be able to find a win and find his way out of this series.
That's right. So with the Mage banned out of the way, the Priest and the Warrior having won now, it's only Soul Demon Hunter left. This is a controversial archetype, I will say for sure. Even amongst the couple of practice groups that I was talking to before the Masters Tours, some people saying they loved it, some people saying they hated it for different reasons. Some people saying that it's just not being played right, some people saying it's just not strong enough. Many different arguments you can make with it there. But Frenetic only needs a single win with the deck now to get to the finals.
Indeed. And overall, it's been a pretty middling performer. As an archetype, as a class, Demon Hunter has been performing pretty well in comparison to all of the other classes. Really by merit of it only having this one archetype, whereas there's a lot of potentially bad archetypes that are being mixed in with other decks' good archetypes. If you actually break it down purely by archetype, it's about 7th or 8th-ish in the overall list in the tournament, which is absolutely fine, but not absolutely crushing as it appears to be when you just look at it class by class.
And so one thing we always used to talk about in Demon Hunter versus Druid was how Magtheridon looks pretty mediocre most of the time, but this is the matchup where it shines. Unfortunately, however, Frenetic isn't running that in the list. He's going to be relying purely on getting damage to the face as quick as possible, and against Druid, that's often difficult to do.
Yeah, his trump card is an Altruist, right? In his version of the deck, which is very unusual to be thrown together, and it can absolutely do some magical things. You play double Skull of Gul'dan in this deck, just like you did in Aggro Demon Hunter, and we saw some of the ludicrous plays that came out from Altruist discounted from Skull of Gul'dan in that version of the deck that terrorized the metagame for multiple weeks and months throughout Grandmasters, so can certainly make some magic happen, but I would suggest that perhaps Druid is not the matchup that inclusion is being aimed at.
We're not a fan of Tempo 2-3 here. We want the card draw.
I still like drawing a card with it on most occasions. This is something that you brought up, and honestly, it's kind of a blind spot in my testing with the deck, is that I never really tried it out that often. I just kind of tunneled on the idea that it had to draw a card. But certainly, I think, resources are king, right? And even with Skull of Gul'dan in hand, that's not necessarily getting cast anytime soon. So the card draw might actually just be important to find something to do turn 5, turn 6, whatever it is, until you can actually get to that Skull of Gul'dan actually being cast. I do feel like card draw is an absolute premium in this deck, because outside of the Skull of Gul'dan, there's really not that much of it, right? Yeah. Which you can starve yourself of resources quite easily.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. Just always something to consider. Tempo against Druid, any deck that can piece together even a really bad version of Zoo, you often take that if you can just have any way to develop minions onto the start. But with the way the mana works out here, Marrow Slicer on 4, maybe even Coin Skull to have unoutcasted if nothing else comes around.
On a scale of 1 to over, how over do you think this game of Hearthstone is, Derek?
Well, I don't know how to answer anything other than 1 or over in that question. So I'm going to say 3.
Good.
Do with that what you will. Okay, it's gone up to a 5,642.
Ah, nice. The question is like, does Anubisath even necessarily get played here? I'm not sure it does, right?
Yeah.
When you have Fate Survival next turn, potentially?
It's worth stopping some damage here for sure, because you are expecting, as the follow-up here, Soulshard Lapidary, and it does potentially soak 9 damage on this turn, or at the very least, stop them from playing it. So I think because of the expected line, I actually do like tempoing it out here.
It's a very, very good point. You do have the opportunity next turn now with the Bloom as well to get Survival of Fittest down and the huge Taunt, and then Bloom out a Broom on top of all of that as well to rush it all and challenge board. But yeah, is board the concern? Do you just end up taking way too much face damage here if you don't put the Taunt in the way? Very good question.
It's a really tough spot. Very deceptively complicated.
So this is the other option, right? Wow. Is that you just do the same thing now with the smaller minions. This way, if the 1/1 sticks even, you actually have a lot of power represented with the Vate survival on the following turn.
Well, in a way, he is very much rewarded here. Soulshard Lapidary basically is just locked out for this turn for Frenetic. It's way too much damage to be sinking in, and that means no 5/5 on the board there, which is the important part of that equation.
No Blade Dance currently in hand, but Skull is now unlocked on the left-hand side. So yeah, it's kind of interesting, right? Because you do now have the potential to Skull of Gul'dan into potential monster Blade Dance on the following turn, which could shut down a power play this turn from Lambyseries with the addition of that natural 4 attack from the weapon.
Really was such a complicated turn, because even then we could start talking about Consume Magic, Coin, Soulshard, Lapidary. Like, maybe that was worth more, and you just get a 5/5, hit them for 9, start killing them. Yes, your Skull is locked for another turn, but he did nothing on that turn. Lambyseries bought himself a completely free turn.
Hello? Okay, nice.
Hello?
Second Shard Shatter.
Your turn again, Lamby.
Yep. Same situation as before. I imagine the weapon is getting held yet again, but now here's that window that Lamby needs to rip the survival because he found the Anubisath defender, and now we are approaching threat level midnight for Frenetic.
And we're also realizing why he's called Frenetic. Porque es muy rápido, apparently.
Accent not quite there, I see.
Accent not there, but the Office reference is one after the other, right? That's what I was going for.
Yeah.
Big couple of pickups, though, of course, with Blade Dance for 1 minion. If you can make that work, absolutely. That's a lot of damage that you can sink to face.
Now with Consume Magic, with Kayn as well, with Twin Slice, with Blade Dance, should be enough to deal with a 1 Survival of the Fittest buffed board state on this turn, you would expect.
I think so.
What to do?
Really just whether or not you want to get down the crystal power on that turn to clear up a little bit of the board, which, you know, you cannot rely on these minions sticking here. I think after a Skull has been played as well, there's a very reasonable chance that this just gets wiped up.
I agree. And his Blade Dance is now monstrous coming through, pushing damage 5/5 on board. Does the Kayn just come down here for tempo as well is the question, because you do still have the Consume Magic to be able to bust through 1 taunt. How important? How important is the potential for multiple sources of damage from this Kayn in order to clutch out this game?
So there's no Iron Bark in the deck. So the taunts left are quite limited, to be fair. You've seen both of the defenders. It's just the teacher's pets now that you're afraid of. He holds it back, though.
He does. Double Crystal Power in hand is likely to be the most important factor here moving forward, but that Gidra is a huge draw to be able to answer the board state, because that was the big plus side of making the board, right? There's already a 5/5 in play. Druid struggles to deal with that. Add another 3/4 to the equation. Starts to become nigh on impossible for them to answer. But this Gidra would have been the solution either way.
Here, I think you're just going all in. Like, heal yourself for 12. You probably even get down the Twilight Runner, I'm thinking, on this turn, instead of going for the Crystal Power. Like, I just want to go as counter-lethal as quickly as you possibly can.
Yeah, kind of like you're thinking.
This is a 9/8 that is not on the board on the turn after you saw a big Blade Dance.
Right. Skull again. And look at this hand. If a discounted Altruist appears, look at the hand he has for it already. Soul Fragment can bust one of these discounts. Soul Fragment still, that's on the same chain. Oh! Oh, I hit the Altruist!
That's not what you like to see.
But he's still outside of that, has Altruist, Kayn, Twin Slice, Chaos Strike, Wandmaker. The damage is just still all there for Frenetic.
The damage is there, but is he going to be able to get it through in time? Because on this turn alone, Teacher's Pet, Twilight Runner, basically whatever combination of beasts you want to go for, this is a lot of damage pushed forward. Especially with the follow-up of a potential 12 damage buff on the following turn with Survival of the Fittest. He's not getting the taunt down.
Nope. No, he is not. Which means now is the time for chunks of this melee damage to be able to go face. But now, yeah, Lambyseries has the opportunity again to get Teacher's Pet in play. I think he has little idea, or less idea than we do, how important it is just to not take a few more points of chip damage here based on this hand.
Indeed.
Wait, why is regular bait being used? Okay, I was going to say, what's the regular bait?
I mean, it's hero power at that point, right? Which is another line you can go through.
Okay,
but that does not put an 8/9 minion on the board, so I'm in favor of this line.
Wait, Twin Slice came from the right as well! I think that's enough! I think Twin Slice from the right as well, with the Kayn and Twin Slice from the left as well?
No way.
8, 11, Chaos Strike, 10 plus 1, 13, Hero Power, 11 plus 3. I counted this last turn, Derek, don't you doubt me. Oh my goodness.
Frenetic has done it. A 3-0 sweep over Lambyseries. He said it earlier today himself, one of the most important days of his life, and he's through to the finals to potentially be our next Masters Tour champion. What a performance from him thus far. That was some clean gameplay. That was a palate cleanser that I sorely needed, Sottle.
You know what the really important thing was there, Derek? He counted it last turn. He knew as soon as the Twin Slice appeared. As soon as the Twin Slice appeared, he knew. Not a moment of hesitation. He was executing lethal before I even saw what the card was. He absolutely knew in that position. So nicely done. Spanish community will be going absolutely nuts, I'm sure, and rightly so. They have the chance for another hometown hero on their side here, and some Spanish representation potentially moving forward in Grandmasters as well.
Oh yes, vamos indeed for Frenetic. Going to be going up against either Dreadeye or Canyetta. Obviously, if Canyetta does end up taking the win, we'll be guaranteed another European champion for our 5th in a row this year, after some incredible performances from everyone in the European region. Obviously, it would be nice to have some that aren't French, like we got from Letta, and potentially we have...
Wow! Jeez.
I mean,
Tell
I just
me how
want
you
to
really feel, Derek.
Spread the love a little bit here. They've had enough trophies for this year. because it could be at the end of this 3 for France, 2 for Italy. It's very much hoarding the trophies here. But again, like I said, I think Frenetic at the moment is definitely the player to beat for me. I think that was just a very nice example of how you play all 3 of the decks that he ended up piloting that series.
Yeah, really, really nicely done. He did have the gift of some really nice curves on his hand, on his side, I should say. But that's what's really going to need to come together to win Hearthstone tournaments like this. Like, you're going to have to prep well. You're going to have a good lineup. You're going to have to play well. You're going to have to make good decisions. You're going to have to get a little bit lucky as well. We're playing a card game at the end of the day. Those things are going to have to happen to you. But the important thing is that when the third one of those happens, you've done the first 2 right that were in your control to actually be able to get yourself over the line and get the full Triforce of victory on your side. And I think that's what Frenetic has done very nicely so far.
Done a great job there indeed. That is, of course, us all done with our first semi-final of the day. One more yet to come before we go to the finals, and that is me all done for the day. So I'm going to pass you over to the second semi-final match yet to come with Dan and Raven. It's going to be Dreadeye up against Canyetta to find out who is going to be going up against Frenetic in the final. It's all coming down to this, so do not go anywhere. The second semi-final and then the final comes up right after this.
Masters Tour Montreal Online is brought to you by T-Mobile. Switch today and rank up to America's largest 5G network. T-Mobile.